ready.
See you in 18 months. Holly, activate the stasis field.
Okay, Frank.
From the moment that he discovered that the cadmium-2 had reached critical mass, Holly had less than 15 nanoseconds to act. He sealed off as much of the ship as possible, the whole cargo area and the ship's supply bay. Simultaneously, he set the drive computer to accelerate far beyond the dull green-blue disk of Neptune in the distance and out into the abyss of unknown space. Then he read the Bible, the Quran, and other major religious works. He covered Islam, Zoroastrianism, Mazdaism, Zarathustrianism, Dharma, Brahmanism, Hinduism, Vedanta, Jainism, Buddhism, Hinayana, Mahayana, Sikhism, Shintoism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Then he read all of Marx, Engels, Freud, Jung, and Einstein. And to kill the remaining few nanoseconds, he skipped briefly through Kevin Keegan's Football. It's a funny old game. At the end of this, Holly came to two conclusions. First, given the whole sphere of human knowledge, it was still impossible to determine the existence or not of God. And second, Kevin Keegan should have stuck to having his hair permed. In the hold, Frankenstein's 4 offspring began to breed. Each litter produced an average of 4 kittens, 3 times a year. At the end of the first year, the second generation of kittens started to breed too. They also produced 3 annual litters of 3 to 4 kittens. When Frankenstein died, at the great old age of 14, she left behind 198,732 cats. 198,732 cats who continued to breed. Still, Red Dwarf accelerated. Holly witnessed at first hand phenomena which had never been witnessed before. He saw phenomena which had only been guessed at by theoretical physicists. He saw a star form. He saw another star die. He saw a black hole. He saw pulsars and quasars. He saw twin and triplet sun systems. He saw sights Copernicus would have torn his eyes out for. But all the while, he couldn't stop thinking about how bad that book was by Kevin Keegan. The cats continued to breed. Red Dwarf continued to accelerate. The 40 square mile cargo hold was seething with cats. A sea of cats. A sea of cats sealed from the radiation-poisoned decks above with nowhere to go. Only the smartest, the biggest, and the strongest survived. The mutants. The mutants who had rudimentary fingers instead of claws, who stood on their hind legs and clubbed rivals to death with their crudely made clubs, who found the best breeding mates, and bred. Felis erectus was born. Red Dwarf, still accelerating, passed 5 stars in concentric orbits, performing a breathtaking, mind-boggling stellar ballet. Not that Holly noticed. He'd been on his own now for 2 million years, and was no longer interested in mind-boggling stellar ballets. What he was really into was Netta Muscat's novels. The young doctor had just told James that she only had 3 years to live, as he held her in his powerful masculine grip, his dark, brooding eyes piercing her very soul. Outside, the suns danced in a perfect pentagon and span end over end like a gigantic Catherine wheel, but Holly didn't see it. He was too busy reading Doctor Darling. Then there was a plague, and the plague was hunger. Less than 30 cat tribes now survived, roaming the cargo decks on their hind legs in a desperate search for food. the food had gone. The supplies were finished. Weak and ailing, they prayed at the supply hold's silver mountains, huge, towering acres of metal rocks, which, in their pagan way, the mutant cats believed watched over them. Amid the wailing and the screeching, one cat stood up and held aloft the sacred icon, the icon which had been passed down as holy and one day would make its use known. It was a piece of V-shaped metal with a revolving handle on its head. He took down a silver rock from the silver mountain, while the other cats cowered and screamed at the blasphemy. He placed the icon on the rim of the rock and turned the handle, and the handle turned, and the rock opened, and inside the rock was Alpha Betty Spaghetti in tomato sauce. And in the other rocks were even more delights. Sugar-free baked beans, chicken and mushroom toasty toppers, faggots in rich meaty gravy, all sealed in perfect vacuums, preserved from the ravages of time. God had spoken, and Felis Sapiens was born. Holly was gurning. He was pulling his pixelated face into the most bizarre and ludicrous expressions he could muster. He'd been gurning now for nearly 2,000 years. It wasn't much of a hobby, but it helped pass the time. He was beginning to worry that he was going computer senile, driven crazy by loneliness. What he needed, he decided, was a companion. He would build a woman. A perfectly functioning human woman, capable of independent thought and decision-making. Identical to a real woman in the minutest of detail. The problem was, he didn't know how. He didn't even know what to make the nose out of. So he gave the scheme up as a bad idea and started gurning again. And there was a war between the cats. A bloody war that laid waste many of their number. But the reason was good. The cause was sensible. The principle was worth fighting over. It was a holy war. Some of the cats believed that the true father of catkind was a man called Cloyster, who saved Frankenstein, the Holy Mother, and was frozen in time by the evil men who sought to kill her. One day, Cloyster would lead them to Birth, the planet where they would make their home. The other cats believed exactly the same thing, except they maintained that the name of the true father of catkind was a man called Clister. They spent the best part of 2,000 years fighting over this huge, insuperable theological chasm. Millions died. Finally, a truce was called. Commandeering a fleet of shuttles from the docking bay, half the cats flew off in one direction in search of Cloyster and the Promised Land, and the other half flew off in the opposite direction in search of Clister and the Promised Land. Behind them, they left the ones who were too weak to travel. The old, the lame, the sick, and the dying. And one by one, they died. Soon, only two remained. One a cripple, one an idiot. They snuggled together for warmth and companionship. And one day, to the cripple and the idiot, a son was born.